we're still in full flight right now on the spill. We still have teams covering the entire area of the spill. So that's Los Angeles County, as well as all the way down into San Diego County in Southern California. We've recovered 26 live birds to date and recovered 24 dead birds. So a total of 50. The birds that have been collected, the live ones, are currently being cared for at our Los Angeles oiled bird facility. All of the oiled ones have been washed, and so we're just kind of moving them in and out of pools and trying to get them back into condition so we can release them.
Is it as bad as what was feared when this first occurred?
As far as the number of live animals we've seen, absolutely not. When the first reports came in with the initial volume that was reported, we were pretty concerned. This is a sensitive part of California. A lot of people very environmentally conscious. So we were very concerned it was going to be a large impact. Coming down, the number of animals have been surprisingly low. So we remain cautiously optimistic it'll stay low. Doesn't mean we're going to reduce our efforts. Doesn't mean we had fewer teams out there than we would in a large scale event, because we want to capture and care for every animal we can. But we were very happy at the amount of impacts we've seen so far.
And is the oil still continuing to spread and impact the beach?
There are tar balls that are continuing to come ashore in different parts of the coastline, actually moving farther south into San Diego County. So there's literally thousands of people out there cleaning up, looking at what areas might need to be cleaned, continuing the efforts to be able to recover as much oil as possible.
And in terms of cleaning down birds, can you take me through what the process of that is? So when they're first found on the beach until where they are at the moment?
Sure. So our specialized teams will go out and collect live oiled animals. And we had teams both on foot, on all-terrain vehicles, in four-wheel drive trucks, and on the water. So combing through the area. Once they're captured, we actually established a field stabilization facility near to where that was. So it's a smaller facility to give animals and some initial first aid, some warmth, fluids, and a bit of time to get over the shock. We then organize transport to what we call our primary care facility. And that's the full facility that allow us to do a full intake examination, so full veterinary exam. We do document everything as well, because it's a legal proceeding in the US as far as evidence being collected. So we do take a feather sample and a photograph of every animal that comes in. We then give it some time, usually about 2 days, where we're continuing to give good food, good fluids, until the animal's completely stable. Then we move it on to the wash. And birds are washed, putting the birds into tubs of warm, dilute soapy water, and literally manually agitating the soap around their feathers, and then moving from tub to tub. As soon as the tub is saturated, moving to the next one, etc. From wash, it goes to rinsing. Oil is a contaminant on the feathers. It actually affects the structure of the feathers. But soap can also be a contaminant as well. So we need to completely rinse the soapy water off. Then they're completely dried. And what that does is it regains the air layer next to their skin so they can stay warm in the water. Then they move on to, for these species, they're moving on to pools and moving them in and out of those pools over time as they regain that waterproofing. And then once they're completely normal, medical evaluations are good. They're appearing healthy, behaving normally. Their body weights are excellent for the species at this time of year. We'll put a permanent ring on their leg and then send them on their way back into the clean environment.
And what species of birds have been coming in?
Most of them, as far as the live birds, have been a variety of kind of coastal species, gulls, some a variety of shorebirds. We have gotten one brown pelican. The most notable species that we've collected so far are 7 snowy plovers. They're very small shorebirds, threatened in the US. So they're being cared for very carefully. They're also very secretive. They're in very protected areas. And so we're taking extremely good care of them, but they're looking very good.
That's good to hear. And I know at the when the spill first happened, there was concern about dolphins as well in
Mhm.
the area. Has anything has there been any news of them?
There have been dolphins seen transiting where the oil was. We did have observers keeping a pretty close eye on them. Um, One of the issues with dolphins oftentimes is, unlike birds where the external coating can be a problem, most of the time it's more the internal exposure with dolphins. And so inhalation of oil right at the surface of the water, or ingestion in the food items. And so oftentimes those things are more chronic. So that may be weeks to months from now. So even when the spill is cleaned up, even when all the birds are released, we're working with our marine mammal partners so that if any animals do strand, either live or dead in this area in the next 4 months to 6 months or so, they're going to be looked at very carefully to see if there were any impacts that may have been due to the spill.
And so we're thinking this spill could have impacts for weeks, months, years to come.
I think as far as some of the acute impacts on the birds, it's definitely going to be weeks, maybe months for those that are lightly oiled and still out. As far as the impacts to marine mammals, larger fish, kind of the ecosystem, plants, that's going to be months, maybe years, depending on what happens. And again, that's part of our natural resource damage assessment process. Is what they do is they look at all the different elements. They're looking at the ecosystems, the plants, the invertebrates, and then the vertebrate species like we're caring for, and combine that all into an injury determination to see what the overall damage is. And that's going to take months to years before we really have a good understanding for what the impacts are.